Jiminy Cricket, here we go again. Welcome back to Grand Theft Disney Brackets, the show where I take every single Disney movie that's been made in the last 100 years or so, pick what I think are the best songs from them, split them up into four somewhat arbitrary brackets of 16, and pit them against each other March Madness style until a winner for each bracket is chosen, after which we will see a final four to determine, once and for all, which song you 7 or 8 people who watch this think is the best. Actually, I guess it's closer to, we're in the double digits now. We've got 25 respondees from this latest one, and if you're just now joining us, yes, I have been asked to change the format up for winter time, just to do something a little bit different, maybe something a little bit more family friendly. I mean, what's more family friendly than sitting your kid down in front of a Grand Theft Auto game, right? But who am I to judge? Anyway, before we start with this first round, last week we started with what I call the modern bracket, which is songs ranging from roughly Lion King to, I think, Encanto is the last one I included on there. Before we get into that, I do want to make a correction. Last week I completely whiffed the final round of San Juan Sounds. I incorrectly said that Daddy Yankee won. Daddy Yankee was not in the final round. It was a Treva Te 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 was in it, but they were up against Don Omar with Salio El Sol. So I have Treva Te 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 by Calle versus Salio El Sol by Don Omar. Don Omar still pretty much blew it out, 4-1. So it will be Don Omar who is going to the final round, not Daddy Yankee. Fast and the Furious fans rejoice, I guess. Anyway, moving right along, I'm going to be announcing the winners of this round and also who the matchups in the next round are going to be. Like I said, we got a total of 25 responses. Our first matchup, we saw number 1 seed Let It Go against the bottom ranked seed Will the Sun Ever Shine Again from Home on the Range. Some of you sickos actually liked Will the Sun Ever Shine Again. Maybe we're just all sick of Frozen at this point, but I mean, come on, it wasn't really going to be a fair contest at any point. Will the Sun Ever Shine Again gets 4 votes out of 25. Let It Go smashes ahead with 21 votes. It's the clearest victory of any of these. Well, we'll see how it fares in the next round. Speaking of Frozen, we've got, in the next round, we have Do You Want to Build a Snowman, which was 8th seeded, versus the 9th seed Be Prepared from The Lion King. This time, Frozen Fever did not take effect. It's a little bit chilling, considering the times that we live in, but Be Prepared did pretty well, getting 16 votes out of 25 to Do You Want to Build a Snowman's 9. So next round we will see Be Prepared versus Let It Go. We'll see how that plays out. We might be in for an upset, I don't know. Matchup number 3. I was never really expecting this to go any other way, but this was still a little bit closer than I expected. We have I'll Make a Man Out of You, which was number 4 seeded, going up against number 13 seed, Zero to Hero. Shout out to Andrew Burke, this was your favorite song. Sorry you didn't do better. I'll Make a Man Out of You gets 18 of the votes to Zero to Hero 7. Sorry, it's that Donny Osmond X Factor, I guess. Moving on to the next matchup, we have You're Welcome from Moana versus Friends on the Other Side from The Princess and the Frog. When this was first starting out, I was a little bit surprised because it looked like the Friends on the Other Side actually pulled ahead, perhaps based on the strength of Keith David alone, perhaps based on the fact that it mentions dark forces at work and the possibility of there being a hell and Faustian deals, which, you know, doesn't really pop up a whole lot in Disney media, but honestly is pretty cool. At the end, you know, you can't stop Dwayne Johnson. He came around and proved why Moana was one of the most well-received Disney movies of the last decade or so. You're Welcome ended up garnering 17 out of 25 votes to The Princess and the Frog's 8. Next round, we will see I'll Make a Man Out of You go up against You're Welcome. So we have more modern versus all-time classic from our childhoods. I don't know. It seems a little bit closer than it should be, but we'll see. Next off, we have We Don't Talk About Bruno from Encanto versus Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride from Lilo and Stitch. They were seeded number 2 and number 15, respectively. This was a lot closer than I expected. Maybe we just have Bruno fatigue, all of us. But Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride did end up with 9 votes, but sadly this means that We Don't Talk About Bruno is going to advance with 16 votes. Next up, another Moana banger versus another kind of a dark horse from Frozen, but I think a fan favorite, for Frozen 2 I should say. We had Shiny from Moana versus Lost in the Woods from Frozen 2. I expected Lost in the Woods to do a little bit better, but Shiny is just like, I mean, it's Jermaine Clement doing Bowie, so there's very few things in the world that are gonna top that. I mean, the man he figured it out. The man has his niche. So his niche. Shiny gets 17 of the votes and will advance to the next round to face We Don't Talk About Bruno. Down to our last 2 rounds here. We have Colors of the Wind by Pocahontas versus Hellfire from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And again, at the beginning, it looked like Hellfire was going to pull ahead, and I was kind of excited for a second because it's a lesser-known song. Again, you kind of have this Faustian kind of devilish undertones. It might be the darkest Disney song, and Tony J, for me, is just great because I grew up watching Reboot and also the Mighty Max cartoon. By the way, I don't know if they're ever going to re-release it, but the Mighty Max cartoon, worth checking out. It's got Tony J as a good guy, and Tim Curry voices the main villain. So, it's also just cheesy fun. I mean, it was my favorite. They did the best they could with what was basically boys' weirdo Polly Pocket. Hellfire made it pretty darn close, but Colors of the Wind still takes it 14-11. We're down to Frozen versus Frozen. Sister versus Sister. It's our own little Civil War melodrama, I guess, playing out in this. We had Into the Unknown from Frozen 2 versus First Time in Forever from Frozen 1. Honestly, I mean, there's not much to say about this round. Into the Unknown takes it with 18 to First Time in Forever 7, which means that Colors of the Wind versus Into the Unknown will be the final matchup of the next bracket. So, I'm going to post again a ballot like I usually do, but if you're one of those people who doesn't need any fancy Google ballot and you simply want to write out what the winners are in the comments, for you. I mean, there's only 4 contests this time, so that makes it a little more feasible than last round. Then by all means, go right ahead. No skin off my nose. Hope these Disney songs find you well. Hope you can give me an answer by, I would say, probably the end of next week. I'd be willing to do it, or possibly earlier than that, possibly by next Wednesday, depending on how many people vote and how quickly. I'll be posting this to YouTube and then also to TikTok, and we'll see how we go from there. And once we go through this round, once we finish up and find the definitive winner of the modern bracket, I'll be moving on to one of the other ones, either the quote-unquote classics, the Disney Dark Age / Renaissance era, which I think is probably my personal favorite just because of the presence of Great Mouse Detective, and then the pop songs, which I have a feeling Phil Collins is just going to absolutely dominate, but, we'll see. So I'll go over one of those, so if you also want to leave a comment about what you think the next one should be of those 3, then please let me know. Classics, by the way, it pretty much entails everything up until, I think, Jungle Book, so everything from, like, Snow White to Jungle Book. Disney Renaissance is from like half of Jungle Book to half of Lion King. Anyway, you see how crazy obsessed I get about this stuff. Hopefully you guys are just as crazy obsessed. Hope this finds you well, and have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.